Republican delegate, a member of the House of Delegates from the New Kent County area, also part of Hanover and King William. That is the 97th district. Hard to keep up. We got 100 of them, but that is the New Kent area. Republican Chris Peace, great to have you.
Good morning. Great to be with you.
Thanks for being with us. So much going on in this short session, Delegate Peace, but I want to get to one of my personally favorite topics, which is Colonial Downs Raceway, shut down now. So one of my favorite places to be in a former career, just truth in advertising. So you know where I'm coming from. I was a former racehorse trainer in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. So I've been in the industry. I've been a trainer. I was so excited when I came to Virginia because finally there was a track, and now it's closed, and I'm so depressed. What can we do? How can we open it?
Well, I feel your pain. Representing New Kent County, which is the home to the major facility of the Commonwealth, we've been extremely distressed at the breakdown and talks between the horsemen and with Colonial Downs over the past year to 16 months. Beginning in December of 2013, the Virginia Racing Commission, which has a statutory obligation to require a contract between the leading horsemen's group and Colonial Downs, failed to do so, failed to implement a race schedule for 2014. We had some preliminary conversations during the session last year to see how we might mediate that situation and hoping for the best, that we would still have racing last year. Unfortunately, the talks broke down, the parties went their separate ways, and when the commission later in 2014 attempted to implement a schedule, Colonial Downs surrendered its license, so essentially shutting the track down to live racing. And as you know, live racing there under the current law is the lifeblood for the entire industry. It's what keeps money flowing through the system, which goes to promote and sustain the racing and breeding industry, which, as you know and you said, based on your background, is a significant contributor to the agricultural economy. It supports farms and veterinary facilities and tax suppliers, blacksmith, other equine-related jobs. So not only was it a devastating blow to New Kent County to the tune of about $500,000 a year, which supports schools and other core services, but it really was an impact to the Commonwealth's economy at a greater level.
Well, there's no doubt, Delegate Peace. People don't realize if you're not in the industry like I was for such a long time, that they just think when they think of jobs, well, like at the track. But as you said, it's feed, it's seed, it's farming, it's agriculture. I mean, it's thousands of jobs that are just gone now because the money stopped flowing through. Now, the fundamental bone of contention, if you will, to just inform our listeners across Virginia, is that basically the Racing Association wanted a set number of dates. Colonial Downs, whenever they do live racing, they actually lose money. They can't make it work. So the idea was, well, let's get the number of dates down, and then have maybe just on the weekends, and have bigger purses to go out, which would bring in a better quality of stock, which means that maybe attendance would go up and things like that. So
you described the situation perfectly.
Thank you.
And I'm sort of sympathetic to both points, because you could see Colonial Downs' perspective. If you have a shorter schedule, you have bigger purses, better quality horse, people coming in from out of state racing, more attendance, more revenue flow. However, the downside to that is the folks coming in from out of state take those purses back out of state.
Right.
So in terms of trying to support and sustain the local agro-economy as it relates to equine matters, that might not have helped the actual Virginia horsemen. So you can sort of see both sides of that. in the bill that we've had this session, which, it's been a fluid process like a lot of legislative processes are, we have come to some agreement on the number of days where we have reduced the number of days allowed from 150 to 125. So moving more towards that Colonial Downs position. But at the same time in the legislation, we've reallocated how the funds are distributed to promote and sustain racing to localities, to the Horse Industry Board, to the Horse Center Foundation, to the Thoroughbred Association, and the new Virginia Equine Alliance, which is a nonprofit Virginia corporation representing all types of racing, thoroughbred, standardbred, and steeplechase. The main thing for me was, again, representing New Kent County, to not let the county be ignored in all of this restructuring and reform, because we are the host site to the major facility, and frankly, all the land use planning, the economic development strategy in the county over the last 10 years or more has been geared around, we want to be a tourism destination. We've got Vinatera, we've got other wineries, we've got 3 or 4 really great golf courses, we've got the track, and so the infrastructure has been designed around that, around 64, to allow tourists to come and go very easily and to support, the local economy. So we wanted to make sure, as that restructuring went through with House Bill 1826 and Senate Bill 1097, that New Kent would at least be held harmless in the new formulas that would be set out. I got to thank Ed Scott, who's now announced he's retiring. He was a champion getting this new legislation to the floor, passing the House, and now passing the Senate as well. Senator Vogel, House member Todd Gilbert, Barry Knight, Senator Norman. There have been a lot of hands in the fire here. We've had some contention, as you can imagine, on both sides, people kind of walking away at times, but we kind of all hung tough and gotten to a point where we can load up at the gate, and hopefully later this year, when Colonial Downs reapplies for its license, we'll be off and running.
So what's the process now? It seems what you're saying, Delegate Peace, that a compromise between the owner, the Jacobsons, who own Colonial Downs, and the horsemen, it seems like you've reached a compromise that everybody can basically live with to just get the thing reopened.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it's definitely been a process, and as I said, it's been contentious at times, but everyone, I think the cooler heads prevailed ultimately and realized they can't go another year without having live racing, without having the revenues that it generates, because otherwise the entire industry and the entire Commonwealth and the heritage and history that we have in horse racing would go away. I mean, I represented part of Caroline County early on, where Secretariat was born. People forget we have just as proud a heritage and history in horses that Kentucky has, and there's no reason why we can't promote that. I met with Rita McClenny, who is the head of the Virginia Tourism Corporation, about what next now that we have this new structure. How can we promote it, brand it, market it out as along with our history, the heritage tourism, our cultural venues, the Crooked Road Trail, our wineries, all the distilleries now and craft breweries that are coming up. Horses are a major part of that as well, and we don't want people to forget this. So hopefully when we reopen this year, we race again, it's going to be a better and a sort of a new and improved product. Well,
it's got a very rich history, and for anybody that's not been to Colonial Downs, and my wife and I are, we've been in the industry, so we go as much as we can. But it's a breathtakingly gorgeous facility. I mean, that's the other thing. It's just a fabulous facility, and it's even been improved since they went to night, and so it's a fun place to be. So hopefully you guys get it worked out. The other thing is, with everything that went down, it really affected the off-track betting centers because of the license dispute. And I don't want to get into the weeds, but if you follow this stuff, they were not able to carry the simulcast tracks from Florida and California and Arkansas, which are some of the big ones. And so it's kind of wreaked havoc on the entire thing. All that will hopefully get reopened. All right, Delegate Peace. Now that we've finally solved Colonial Downs, and I'm all fired up, you guys are in budget negotiations with the Senate. how are things looking now?
Well, I'm privileged to serve on the Committee on Appropriations and chair the subcommittee on transportation. I know that our chairman, Delegate Jones, has been working since the beginning of session with Senators Colgan and Stosh and other conferees that were named yesterday to try to get us out on time or even early. We experienced a pretty incredible year last year, almost 12 months of budget deliberations. We certainly don't want to put Virginia through that again, and that was, as you know, in large part due to fluctuations in forecasts and some revenue estimate errors, and we were able to get to some agreements, but we had to make some major cuts. And right now, we're showing where revenues are looking a little better, but I don't think that means we're anywhere out of the woods or should sort of take that for granted. So we're still producing a structurally sound, conservative budget, and I'm optimistic about us having agreement here by the deadline of the 28th.
Well, that would certainly be different than what everybody went through in 2014. And I'm almost out of time. I got about a half a minute. But, you know, it's I've been saying this all week. It seems like the relationship between Governor McAuliffe and House leadership is much better in 2015 than it was in the prior session, right?
Well, I think a large part of that was the Medicaid expansion debate. I mean, certainly that was so front and center and was in large part, along with the revenue issues last year, a contributing factor to the breakdown in conversation and the inability to get a budget done on time. I think everybody realizes that's a non-starter now.
Yeah,
so we're looking at core functions of government. How do we produce that balanced, conservative budget on time and get about the people's business?
All right, you got it.
It's certainly our responsibility.
We're out of time.
I'm pleased that
all
parties are working together towards that end. It seems like the governor may be a little more engaged. It's certainly your first year in. I'm sure it's a little bit deer in the headlights, but maybe he's settling in more to his responsibilities governing the Commonwealth.
All right. We want to thank Delegate Chris Peace for being with us.